welcome to another episode of The Mind Game. We always do the same thing. We start the show by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to get right down to it. Very special guest, the mayor of Erie, Pennsylvania, Mr. Joe Schember.
Thank you, Vernon. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Sure.
Anytime you can get somebody that's representing the city that you live in, the pleasure has to, and the honor has to be totally all mine. Very briefly, let's get right down to it. Let's give us a little bit of background of, I mean, your story is well documented, obviously, but just give us a little bit of background. Before you became mayor, what were you doing?
I was a banker before I became mayor. I kind of fell into that. I never planned on it. I was studying to be a priest for 6 years, and I ended up majoring in English to finish college. I got a master's in English, taught high school English a couple of years, and I literally kind of fell into banking. It wasn't something I ever planned on. I started out as a teller, a full-time teller. It was Marine Bank at the time.
That's a long time ago.
That was going 1976 is when I was hired. And PNC bought Marine in the early 1980s, and I really thought I would get an MBA from Gannon and then move on to something else. But I really enjoyed the career because to me, banking was a people business. It was about working with your coworkers and serving clients and prospects, and I really, really enjoyed that. But after 40 years, I would still be working there, to be honest, except I kind of felt called at this point in my life to give something back to the community, and that's what I want to do as mayor.
Okay, so let me get this right. You was at Marine and PNC Bank for 40 years?
That's correct.
What position did you actually leave in the capacity from PNC?
I was called a relationship manager for the last 13 years I worked there. I worked in our high net worth group. We dealt with people with $1 million or more in investable assets. And my job was to build relationships with clients and prospects and grow the business. And I really enjoyed doing that.
Well, just that's going to lead perfectly into what we get ready to talk about. But before we do that, I just want to say that I've had several guests on the show, Mayor, and everybody is talking about your willingness to work with them and also your visibility. Now, I was gone from Erie for about 13 years. When I left here, Mr. Filippi was the mayor. It was his first year. He was trying to get the horse track down by the hammer mill outside or whatever. We all know what that happened. Now, the position you was in with the bank, I think prepared you perfectly for the mayor's office, because as a leader in the city today, in particular here, we need somebody who is a people person, but not only that, we need somebody that knows how to run a business, because Erie is a business just like any other city.
Absolutely. It's got to be run financially soundly. And also, I've got no ambitions beyond being mayor of Erie. That's kind of the high point of my life. I want to give back at this point. I want to transform Erie for future generations.
Well, two things. One, you put the cart before the horse, because my last question was going to be, do you have any other political aspirations? But you just answered the question.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. What led you to even consider being a mayor?
Well, my grandfather was actually mayor of Erie back in the early 1950s. I was alive, but I was like 2 years old. I don't even remember. His name was Tom Flatley. And growing up, he lived with my parents for quite a while, my aunts and uncles. And other than my parents, nobody had a bigger influence on the kind of person I am than Tom Flatley did. He was a good man. He always had a pocket full of candy, which all of us grandchildren knew, and we loved being around him. But he was just a very good man, and I learned a lot from him. I also spent about 5.5 years on Erie City Council. This was back in the the early 2000s is when I was on for about 5.5 years. And so I did, and I chaired the City Council's Finance Committee that whole time. And city finances, because it's public, is a little different than the private sector. So that gave me really a good chance to learn the city finances and what goes on there. And that also helped prepare me to be mayor, I feel.
Well, it goes without saying, that was probably the best experience you had, even more so than banking. But you got to get to see the overall.
Yes.
Now, did you have any ties or any dealings with Mario?
I had I never really served with him, never was in a political, I certainly knew who he was, but no real connection to him.
Let's get right down to it. I mean, Miss Arrington came out publicly last week as the president of the city council, and it's going to be an uphill battle. People in the community, Mayor, want to know why you are doing this at this time, and there's a lot of rumblings about you trying to stop the bucket from being kicked down the road, so to speak.
Yes,
Let's talk about
that's
that.
exactly right. I'm trying to take a long-term view of the budget. And one of the things we've done is we're showing City Council a 5-year projection. If they approve what we gave them last week, we show them what's going to happen for 5 years down the road. That's a common financial practice among financial professionals. You don't just look at 1 year, you should look at what's the impact down the road as well. That's something new we're doing. It hasn't, I've said it a number of times, it still hasn't gotten a lot of press about it, but I think that's going to make a huge difference. I'm certainly willing to listen to council. You know, if any of them have any good ideas about alternates to what I presented, I'm all for hearing it out, thinking about it, and if it makes sense, it's not like, to me it's not a win-lose battle between me and council.
Okay.
We're both serving the same public.
Exactly.
We need to come up with the best budget possible. So if they have some good ideas that make sense, I'm incorporate them. You know, I'm not going to be battling or fighting them.
Okay.
But if they don't make sense, I'll explain why I don't think they do and ask them not to go that direction.
Okay, so now was the bucket being kicked down the road to the point to where you had to come up with the type of budget that you had to come up as far as the cuts and stuff to save the money?
Well, you know, I'm hesitant to criticize anybody, to be honest. And the previous administration, Joe Senate, he did a really good job. Okay. When I was on city council, the city was in real financial jeopardy. He pulled us out of that, and he built about an $11 million surplus, which is a good surplus for a city Erie size. It means we can get through a couple rough months without having to borrow money, which is important. Okay. So I give Joe Senate and his administration a lot of credit for putting the city back on a good financial footing. Okay. and then building these reserves that help us through the rough times. Okay,
so then what brought us to this point to why you feel as though you have to do what you have to do in your budget?
Well, I do feel like historically the city, and this is every administration, has just kind of used a Band-Aid to fix current issues without looking long-term.
That's what we want to hear.
Yes, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want to look at the long term, get people to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why it's better financially. One of the things we had to do in the current budget that we submitted was refinance our debt, and that's to reduce our debt payments a little over $4 million. I really hate to do that because long term, that's not the best strategy, but we had no other good alternative to make the budget balanced this year. Okay. So we did go ahead with that, but I hope never to have to do that again. And we will be working hard to make sure we build reserves and are able to handle debt going forward.
Two things. The accuracy of your 5-year plan. Is it sound?
It's as sound as it can be, but like, the further out you get with any kind of budget, the less accurate it's going to be because you don't know everything that's going to happen, obviously. So the further out you get, so once you go out to 5 years, that's kind of iffy. But the next year or two is pretty sound in terms of what to expect. Okay,
and then you'll make the necessary adjustments if you need be?
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
So what would you say council's position as far as not allowing or disagreeing with all the cuts that you're planning on making? What would be their position to the opposition to that?
Well, you know, I think that's very normal, and again, I welcome it. I welcome different ideas, how we might do things better and differently. I tell you, when I served on council, pretty much every time the same kind of comments were made to the previous administration too, about, no, we've got to do things better, we've got to find a better way, you know, we can't raise taxes, that sort of thing. So it didn't, you know, what was said when I presented the budget didn't bother me at all. Okay. It's very normal, and I think we can move forward. Again, the unique thing we did is we showed them a preview of the budget 2 weeks before it was actually presented. That's the first time that's ever been done also. Okay. And the reason I did that is I wanted to give everybody a glimpse at what we were going to propose and get feedback. And that feedback was very helpful, and we actually made some changes based on the feedback we received.
Well, one of your biggest assets so far in your first year as being mayor is your communication skills with not only council, but just the overall general public here in Erie. You're very visible. You know, I came back here 2 years ago, going on 3 years, and there was people that had never seen, believe it or not, the mayor previously, and not to throw stones or anything, because he did a good job when he was there, but the visibility ties in, Mayor, to the accountability. Yes. Okay, if you can come out, just like you said, you presented it 2 weeks ahead to let them know what your plans were.
Yes.
Okay, that's showing accountability. Yes. That's what the people, I think, in the city of Erie deserves, and more importantly wants. Now, how hard do you think it'll be to get most? Because some of this could be political grandstanding by city council.
It's possible.
Okay, and then some of it could be genuine concern.
Sure.
How much your budget do you think, in a percentage-wise, that you can actually get put into motion?
I really think the majority of it will get put into motion. You know, we'll see what kind of proposals or other thoughts that council has, and they're studying it right now.
Okay.
They're all assigned to a department. They're going to meeting with that department, going over that department's budget, trying to understand what could be changed or what should be changed. Obviously, I tried to present the best budget that my finance person, Paul Lichtenwalder, and I could come up with. I feel we did do that, but certainly if we miss something and somebody's got a good idea, we're all ears and willing to listen. My best guess, though, is that this budget will probably move forward pretty much in the condition it's in.
Which would be good, because that'll be right on track and right on target with your 5-year plan.
That's correct.
And hopefully we can get that accomplished in a timely manner without dragging things on, because the more it prolongs. In that budget, what do you think is the most critical cuts that you propose?
Probably 87 to 90% of the city's budget is salary and benefits of employees, because there's no product we produce or anything like that. So one of the things I did back in midsummer when I first became aware of a financial situation was I said, anytime somebody leaves a position, whether they're transferred or they resign or retire or whatever, we have to ask the question, do we really need to replace this position? And if we don't, we won't. And if we do need to replace it, then my next question is, could it be replaced with a part-time employee instead of a full-time, again, to reduce costs?
Okay.
So far we've had a net of 6 positions we've eliminated last year, or during 2018, since I took over. And it was through that process, basically. We don't want to fill positions that we don't need. We want to make sure we really need it. And I'm not planning to lay anybody off or go down that route. Right. But we'll continue to do this. We already know of one person that's leaving in 2019 that we're not going to replace as well. Okay. And we'll continue to ask with every position that comes up, does this really need to be replaced? Now, one thing I'd also add here is that with fire and police, I feel they're both minimally staffed right now. Okay. I'd really like to find ways to increase our police and fire, which is probably the 2 most important services the city provides. But we have to do it within the budget too. Okay. Right now we have no plans to increase, but those are positions in police and fire are probably not going to be eliminated going forward.
And with the crime going on in the city, and I'm sure you're aware of it, you know, we're headed down toward our highest homicide rate in years. We need all the law enforcement that we can get in the streets. Yes. And appreciate what those guys are doing, keeping the community safe. Thank you. Now, these positions that you just talked about, where did the work go from those positions?
The work was absorbed by other people in the department, basically, because they felt, and actually the employees many times would say, hey, we can handle this. You don't need to replace that person or that individual. So those 6 people we replaced were close to $400,000 in salary and benefits we saved so far this year.
Well, that's excellent all in some. Did you compensate the people that were taking on the extra work?
Some of them we did. Some of them, the work had kind of moved out of the department, so it really wasn't there anymore when the person left. So in that case, we didn't. But if they were taking on additional responsibilities, we did compensate them.
And that's excellent. So basically, what the mayor is telling us, he's trying to make the machine leaner and meaner.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And in doing so, not have all the pork.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it. I like it.
Which can only benefit the city with that extra money being saved in the long run.
That's right.
What are your plans in the upcoming, I know the budget is big, but do you have any future plans with bringing business in for 2019 and going forward?
Yeah, we are working hard on that. We have a community and economic development department. Chris Groner runs that department, and he is very good. He runs a $7 million loan fund, among other things. These loans are made to small businesses in Erie that can't get loans from banks or other financial institutions. Yes. And he's got about 35 of those loans outstanding now. He hates it when I say this, but they're all current. None of them are delinquent. People are paying. And so we're working hard. The problem is this year he kind of got up to the maximum of his loan amount. So he doesn't have money left to lend. He mentioned that to me, and I said, well, we got to get you some more money. Next year when we refinance the debt, we're also going to take on a little additional debt. Some of that is for street paving, because we have no money left for street paving. Some of it will also go into his loan fund, so he has money next year to lend to people. And he's already picked up his conversations with he's got a lot of very good potential borrowers who are bringing businesses to Erie or bringing more employees to Erie. It's very exciting. And now that he knows he's getting this additional money, he's going out more aggressively and trying to help those people.
How closely is y'all monitoring this? Because I know during the Slovakia administration, she was doing some of the same things with trying to get people starting in their own businesses. And a lot of those businesses didn't work out. So it kind of left us holding the bag. How closely are y'all monitoring the money that he's lending?
That is very closely monitored. He sends a report out every month on his outstanding loans to me and several other people. So we're watching it very closely. Chris also does a very good job. He often talks to me about loan situations because of my financial background at the bank as well, and looks for advice. And if he's unsure of something, he's not going to just do it. He's going to come and talk to me and others and try to work through it and make the best decision possible.
Well, that in itself reassures the community that you just ain't no buddy system. Hey, Chris, can I get $100,000 to start this?
It definitely is not. Yes, you're absolutely right, Gavin.
You know, when you throw money like that here and there, it adds up.
Yes.
And before you know it, you got debt on top of debt. So your banking experience, once again, comes into play with helping that. How close are you working with John Persinger?
Very closely, actually. Of course, John and I ran against each other for mayor last year, and I'm really proud of the fact that we both ran positive campaigns. We presented ourselves. Neither of us attacked the other one. I've known him since he came to Erie. We live across the street from each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yes. No, his
That's
kids,
good, that's good.
No, his wife, yeah. And he ran a very good campaign. I was fortunate to win, and I was very happy when the EDDC decided to hire him as president of the Erie Downtown Development Corp., which is what he's doing now. So he is trying to develop the area from North Park Road to 3rd Street and Sassafras to Holland, that kind of 14-block area there. And he just bought the area between State and Peach, Holland and 5th Street. He bought a lot of that building, and he's looking to put in more residences where people can live and work downtown, as well as businesses on the ground floor. So John and I meet several times a week now. We talk frequently, we get along well, and we're trying to help each other, not hurt each other.
Okay, what is your relationship? Pretty much, they had no relationship with the previous administration, nor the United. What is your relationship with the community as far as the centers and the New Life Center out there, as well as the Martin Luther King?
Yes.
And the rest of the centers. What are you doing?
And I've got a very good, close relationship, I'm happy to say, with the centers. I worked on that during the campaign, and I have to honestly say they were a little suspicious of me. They wanted to make sure I wasn't trying to get votes, which I don't blame them. But over time, we've built a very good relationship. I've actually made some personal donations to the centers, but also worked together with them. And this, in 2018, when we decided how to give out the money that we got from the community development block grants, they all got more than they have previous years. And we'd like to give them more, but we gave them all we could, and they seemed very happy with that.
Very appreciative.
Yes, and we're committed to continuing to work with them. Trying to build a better relationship between them and the United Way. So there's a little suspicion there, but I think that can be worked through, and I think United Way is committed to helping the people most in need, and those are the people in the community centers that use them.
Exactly. Plus, I think in 2019, as well as 2018, I think the leaders of those centers here in the city realize that they have to find other ways of revenue to be able to stand on their feet. And I think coming up in 2019, we're going to be hearing a little bit of something about that from them. So hopefully going forward, we'll be able to do that.
The GCAC is also doing a lot of really good work right now. Danny Jones there and that group, yes.
We haven't really heard anything from him, but I'm sure in the coming up year, we'll be able to have a sit down with him and let him tell us exactly what's going on. What about the private sector? I know Erie Insurance, and I've said this time and time again, they're going above and beyond showing the community that not only are they a Fortune 500 company, but they're trying to invest as much as they can here in the Erie area. How close are you working with Mr. LaCastro with that gang down there?
Very closely. Yes, they're doing a lot of great work. You know, when they started building their new building, which is the biggest building ever built in Erie, square footage wise. They're on French and between 6th and 7th. They got criticized because there weren't minority workers working on the building. And what they did was they went out and talked to a lot of leaders in the minority community, particularly African-American church leaders, and got feedback from them. And they worked and put together a program. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Eagles Nest?
Excuse me?
The Eagle's Nest?
Eagle's Nest, thank you.
Yeah, with Bishop
Yes.
Brock.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. And I used to be on Bishop Brock's board. back when I was at
And
the
you know,
bank.
that's funny you should say that because I seen him in the bank one day during the campaign. And I asked him, I said, well, who are you going for? And he said, well, I don't know, but Joe is on my board, you know, and since then I haven't been able to catch up to him, but trying to get on one show. But let's go ahead and finish talking about the relationship.
So they work with Bishop Brock, and what he does is he takes a couple weeks and trains people in the soft skills they need to be successful in a job. And then they go into the job and learn the skills they need in that job.
Okay.
So, and I've had a chance on a tour of the new air insurance construction to meet some of the new workers that came through that program. And they're hard at work, and they're learning skills that they can use in other jobs going forward.
And he's getting money, although I'm sure he could use more. He's been a fixture in the community for a long time, and it's good to see that your administration is working closely with not only him, but the minority community in general to try to get things accomplished. What about the blight? I know you talked about that during your campaign.
Yes.
What are your plans and where are you at with that in your first year?
We've got some really good progress on that because, as you know, there's $1 million set aside to use to fight blight. That's from the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority, Perry Wood and his group. And the city has a land bank and the county has a land bank. And a land bank is a much more efficient way to fight blight than going through a redevelopment authority. Okay. And they can do it much more cheaply and much more quickly. But the problem, the city's land bank basically didn't have any money. So there's not much you can do without having any money. But the county land bank has just designated about $400,000 from that $1 million from Perry Wood to come to the city land bank. That has got us excited. We think there's going to be at least 20 properties with that $400,000 that they're going to be able to fix up, either tear down and get rid of, or fix up. And most of them, from what I understand, are going to be torn down because they're just beyond being able to be repaired. But it's very exciting that that's going on, and it's going to move Erie forward for sure.
First year in office as the mayor, how much of your agenda going forward have you think that you at least got started in the right direction?
I think one of the things we've done is really conveyed our vision to the community, and we're saying Erie is a community of choice. We celebrate our rich cultural diversity, our vibrant, welcoming neighborhoods, our world-class downtown and bayfront, our excellent education for everyone, and our abundance of good family-sustaining jobs. That's kind of our 5-point vision, and we try to tie everything we do back to that vision. We're working right now on coming up with some quantitative measurements that we can use to see how we're doing towards getting to that vision. We hope to be able to announce those within the next month or so. We're trying to get those done right now.
So you're putting things together as we speak.
Absolutely.
Yes. The Scott Enterprises, have they played any role in anything that you're doing?
Yes, they started the new hotel down on the East Bay front, which I'm really happy. It's nice to see something going on down there. That's going to help transform that area. They've got a lot more planned there. And there's other developers like Rick Griffith, who owns Level Place, and he's got a lot of plans. Right now, they're waiting for what's called Alerta to get into place. And that's something that's been a top priority to me since the beginning of the year. I'm a little disappointed we haven't gotten it done yet. But there's a good reason we haven't. The Erie School District's financial situation has presented us. What Alerta does is on any new construction, it gives you a break on the property tax on the new construction. So if you owned a building that say you were paying $5,000 a year in property tax on, and you put $1 million into that building and make it better, you still pay the $5,000 a year, but you don't have to pay tax on that extra $1 million for a period of time.
Now, this is the same situation where we're talking about with the guy who built the hotel down there across from the convention center?
It's not the same because that was a state law. That the way that was done, technically the county owns those hotels, and so they're tax exempt. Alerta just defers tax for a period of time.
So eventually they're going to pay those taxes.
That's correct.
It's just
they will
a matter
pay it eventually.
of the deferred payments.
Absolutely. Yes.
What would you say? Now, let me say this. You and I told Ms. Dahlkemper before last week when she was on the show, y'all showed great leadership stepping in with the Erie School District as far as what they were trying to do at the beginning of the year, taxing people as far as putting extra aids or whatever. Y'all stepped in and handled that. Do y'all see in the foreseeable future any other joint ventures or any other team leadership that y'all can get together and make it good for the city and the county.
Yes, the two of us are committed to working together. We actually have lunch every other week together, just Kathy and I. We talk about everything we're working on, and to be honest, we don't necessarily agree on everything. Some of it I think it's just because I'm looking at it from the city perspective, she's looking at it from the county, although I try to think more regionally as well. But there's probably 10% of what we're talking about that we don't agree, but we listen to each other, we try to understand each other. Then if we just don't agree, we say, okay, we don't agree on that one, but let's move on. The 90% we do agree on, we can work together on. I'm really proud of a lot of the things we've accomplished together. One of them being the restructure of the EMTA board, which I think is going to make a huge difference going forward.
Yes, it is. We talked about that, and hopefully y'all can get y'all appointed to people that y'all wanted in there.
Yes.
And y'all can get things going. Before we go ahead and wrap it up, do you have anybody in consideration that, I know you can't say publicly, but for Mirsky's position?
No, that'll be up to city council. As mayor, I really have no say in that. If they want input, I certainly give it. In the past, I know that when we've had city council positions come open, we've had like up to 50 people that have applied for it. So they may get a lot of them. They'll have to wax it, get it down to maybe 5 or so, and then they might want to do interviews and talk to them. Yes.
Final thoughts real quick, we've got about 20 seconds.
Okay, I would just say, what my administration, we call it our mission, is to build opportunity, restore hope, transform Erie. That's what we want to do as a group. I'm blessed with a very diverse and a great group that's just accomplishing a lot. And I really hope that we're able, over the next couple of years, to build opportunity, restore hope, and transform Erie.
Well, in your first year, you certainly made an impact, and hopefully you can continue doing that. I have no doubt that you will. And eventually, I truly believe Erie will get to where they want to be. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just keep tuning in. We're going to keep rolling them out, and hopefully I'll see y'all again.